Carlos Ghosn is the most wanted man in the entire automotive industry, both during his professional rise and later in life for not entirely positive reasons. Ghosn recently escaped house arrest in Japan whilst awaiting trial for major financial misconduct. Let's look into why Ghosn suffered such a spectacular fall from grace as a visionary automotive leader. It is claimed that Ghosn pulled a Harold Houdini style trick by leaving Japan in a double bass case used for the musical instrument. Welcome to the bizarre story of Carlos Ghosn. Ghosn, a Brazilian native, is the chief architect behind the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, an automotive powerhouse that includes brands such as Alpine, Infiniti, Dacia, Renault-Samsung, Datsun, Venucia and Lada. They are a pretty big deal. Ghosn has a collection of accolades to his name, including entries to the Automotive Hall of Fame, the first foreign business leader to receive the Blue Ribbon Medal in Japan. He is also fluent in 4 languages, although just only proficient in Japanese, and holds citizenship of both Brazil, France and Lebanon. So, where does the story all begin? Carlos Ghosn was born on March 9th, 1954 in Porto Velho, Brazil, to parents of French-Lebanese origin. He spent much of his early childhood sick from an unsanitary water consumption. Then, from the age of 6, the family moved to Lebanon as healthcare was significantly better than in Brazil. He remained in Lebanon until becoming a teenager, where he and his family moved to France to complete his high school. Ghosn was academically bright, as he went on to complete a university degree as an engineer at École, one of France's most prestigious higher education universities. Ghosn's engineering degree primed him for a role within the automotive industry. He had secured himself a graduate job at the French tyre manufacturer Michelin. This is the same Michelin who awards stars to the world's best restaurants. Though initially Carlos Ghosn was employed within the tyre manufacturing and design, he enjoyed a successful career at Michelin spanning 18 years, which started in 1978. Carlos Ghosn started his career at age 24, and by age 27 Carlos was the head of the plant in Le Puy-en-Velay, a town whose pronunciation I have butchered completely. 3 years later, in 1984, Carlos Ghosn would be head of research and development for Michelin's industrial tyre division, a position Carlos Ghosn held for a year before becoming the chief operating officer of Michelin's entire South American division in 1985, aged 30. Back then, the tyre company was struggling in South America with unprofitability. Carlos Ghosn was tasked with turning the company's fortunes in Latin America. Carlos's business acumen was quite apparent, and within the span of just 2 years the company had turned a profit. Carlos remained as the chief operating officer for Michelin South America for an additional 2 years before he was promoted to the same title, but this time in North America. In 1990, Carlos received another promotion, which he now saw the highest position in Michelin North America, that being the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer. Carlos held this position until 1996, when his 18-year tenure at Michelin Tyres ended. In 1996, following the privatization of the French car manufacturer Renault, Carlos was appointed as the vice president. His duties meant he oversaw purchasing, advanced research and engineering and development, powertrain operations and manufacturing, as well as the entirety of Renault's South American operations. The company, under the supervision of Ghosn, saw the company make record profits in its first year as vice president. But his biggest business decision was yet to come, and that would be in March 1997 with the formation of the Renault-Nissan alliance. Renault would purchase 36.8% of the Japanese car manufacturer, which provided a much needed lifeline for Nissan, as they were making losses on 43 out of the 46 vehicles that they had produced. With Ghosn's Midas touch, Nissan were able to strike gold again, as the company's financial year of 2000 ended with a 4.5% profit over sales, which amounted to $2.7 billion worth of profit. Prior to the alliance, Nissan had lost $6.46 billion US, and by the year of 2002, they had decreased Nissan's $20 billion debt in half to $10 billion. Enormous numbers for sure, but it is incredibly positive for the company. Its restructuring was ruthless in nature, with the loss of 14,000 Japanese jobs and the selling off of Nissan's aerospace assets and other manufacturing plants. His vision was clear. It was 180, 1 million cars per year, 8% profitability, and $0 of debt by the year of 2005. This was actually achieved by 2003. That is a remarkable achievement by a true visionary. By 2005, global car sales were actually 3.67 million, profitability was 11%, and the company had a positive balance sheet position, absolutely shattering the 180 goals set back in 1999. His godly achievements saw Carlos be promoted to the Chief Executive Officer roles of both Renault and Nissan. To put it into a little bit of context, he was the first person in history to be the CEO of two separate companies of the world's 500 largest companies simultaneously. He was a wanted man indeed. General Motors wanted to merge with Renault and Nissan and appoint Ghosn as their chairman. Ford Motor Company wanted him to be their CEO. Carlos Ghosn refused their offers, as he wanted to bring vehicle ownership to the world's masses. He wanted to bring vehicle ownership to the world's developing countries, and he wanted them to be zero emissions. Ghosn foresaw the future, and he foresaw that it was electric. This was all at a time before Tesla. In the midst of a global recession, the alliance went big on electric vehicles, and their first was the Nissan Leaf. The Leaf is currently the global leader of electric vehicles in terms of sales. Under Ghosn's leadership throughout the 2010s, the alliance grew. Renault's stake in Nissan had increased to 43.4%. The Japanese auto manufacturer also purchased Mitsubishi. They purchased 34% of Mitsubishi. It formerly became known as the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi Alliance. This alliance instantly became the fourth largest car manufacturer in the group, and Carlos was at the helm. The company, as in 2019, sold 11 million vehicles per year. That is an increase of 25% from a decade ago, and 4 times what it was selling when the alliance began back in 1999. His interests were not solely within the automotive industry. Carlos Ghosn held advisory positions in the Brazilian bank Banco Itaú, as well as the Chinese university Tsinghua's School of Economics and Management in Beijing, and serves as the governor of the World Economic Forum. Ghosn was on top of the automotive industry, or so he thought, until the fateful evening on 19th of November 2018 at 4:30 p.m. Ghosn was arrested at the airport upon arrival into Japan by Japanese police on called into questioning over accusations of false accounting. His colleague Greg Kelly, who was the head of HR, Human Resources, was also arrested. A Japanese executive known by Hiroto Seikawa called a press conference that day and had announced that Ghosn had been dismissed from the Nissan-Mitsubishi arm of the alliance in a coup-like fashion, and all his executive rights to be stripped by the 22nd of November 2018. During the press conference, Saikawa stressed that Ghosn's dismissal was entirely due to an internal inquiry. It is alleged that Ghosn and Kelly underreported their compensation earnings and that they were using the company funds to hide personal payments that included investments such as an extensive property portfolio valued in excess of $18 million, family holidays, all of which that was purchased through a shell company based in the Netherlands, which is a known tax haven, dating back from 2010. All in all, the alleged corporate frauds amounts to $80 million, allegations that Ghosn denies. There were some leaked documents a few years ago that claimed that Ghosn had been planning on firing Seikawa. It could be suggested that Seikawa had personal vendetta against Ghosn, though, and that can't be proved, there are some fishy circumstances surrounding the whole financial arrangements set up by Ghosn, as Ghosn is alleged to have set up companies under the alliance that he had full control over. Carlos Ghosn was released mid-December 2018 as part of a plea bargaining deal, only to be arrested a few days later on the 21st of December when new allegations and charges arose. On the day of his scheduled release from prison on the 11th of January 2019, he was charged with aggravated breach of trust and understating his income for his involvement of the draining of a CEO reserve fund being spent on unauthorized expenditure in a Saudi Arabian aerospace company. Nissan's internal investigations allege that Ghosn paid himself an additional $8 million via a Dutch shell company set up with his sole authority. The scandal got the French government sweating as they saw themselves implicated in the midst of a diplomatic disaster. They stepped in and asked for bail for Ghosn, which the Japanese authorities had refused, and by the 24th of January 2019, Ghosn was formally out of the alliance as he voluntarily resigned from Renault. Changing his legal team, Ghosn posted a $9 million bail and was released on the 6th of March 2019. He was placed on house arrest under 24-hour surveillance with no access to the internet. Bail conditions were breached on the 3rd of April via Twitter, as Ghosn tweeted, "Ready to tell the truth." Carlos Ghosn was promptly rearrested on the 4th of April over alleged financial dealings in Oman. Ghosn claimed in a YouTube video that he is innocent of all the accusations that came around these charges and that they are all biased, taken out of context, twisted in a way to paint a personage of greed and a personage of dictatorship. He claims the payments to a Saudi Arabian aerospace company were a way to set up a method for him to receive his salary in USD as opposed to the Japanese yen. He was released on April 22nd on a 4-month house arrest with no contact with his wife Carol. Ghosn's troubles were not solely limited to the criminal investigations in Japan, as in June 2019 Ghosn was now being investigated by the French state as an audit of Renault's financials uncovered 11 million euros of questionable expenses related to Ghosn. A month later in July, Renault's headquarters were raided. The month also saw Ghosn attempt to sue French mass media for libel. In August, Ghosn's wife Carol pleaded with the French President Emmanuel Macron to intercede on his behalf to Japanese leader Shinzo Abe at the 45th G7 summit held in France from August 24th to 26th, 2019. Then in September, Ghosn was fined $1 million in the US for claims relating to failing to disclose payments from Nissan of over $140 million US dollars. As a result, he was barred from holding public office of a company for 10 years. The escape from Japan seems like the plot of a Hollywood movie. On the 30th of December 2019, media started to report that Ghosn had fled Japan for Lebanon, whilst hidden in a case designed for a musical instrument. It is believed that Ghosn had travelled to Turkey before boarding a flight to Lebanon. 4 pilots were subsequently arrested for the assisting of Ghosn's escape. Japanese authorities claim that Ghosn left freely on his own accord. The truth is yet to be revealed. Ghosn confirmed these reports via a press team based in New York. In his statement, Ghosn said that he is no longer held hostage by a rigged Japanese justice system where guilt is presumed, discrimination is rampant, and basic human rights are denied, and that he escaped injustice and political persecution. Upon arrival to Lebanon, Japanese persecutors revoked Ghosn's bail. There is no extradition treaty between Japan and Lebanon, but both countries are members of Interpol, the international police, and Interpol issued a red warrant for Ghosn's arrest. A red warrant is issued to seek the arrest of an individual waiting trial with a view to extradite them to face justice. Ghosn intends to hold a press conference on the 8th of January 2020. Ghosn's meteoric rise was followed by an equally large fall from grace. It leads to many questions. What is going to happen to the Alliance? Will Ghosn find himself living the rest of his days in jail? We can't predict the future, but it's been one hell of a ride. Thank you for watching.